Okay, so we have our texture here for our surfaces. We have our little circular textures down over here. You can make it a little bit darker down here at the edge. I'm just going to darken that in just a little bit around the corners. Generally in drawings, in artwork, you want to burn in your corners. What does that mean? That's a photography term for making that darker on those. When darkroom photography was the deal, and now as well, because you do the same thing in a computer, but you make the corners just a little bit darker and the bottom edges a little bit darker than the middle section, and that creates kind of a frame around the pieces and forces the viewer to look towards the object itself. So burning in your corners is a deal on that. And so if I can just, and it should be subtle, it should be, you don't really notice it unless you're really looking for it. So it was slightly darker here on that one. Let's go ahead, I'm going to flip this over because it's easier to draw on this side here. So it's got to be darker on this edge, and so this is just the weight of the pencil. This is a 6B pencil, and you'll notice that the weight of the pencil sometimes pushes down the paper and sometimes not on that. And so we start out with just the weight of the pencil, and I talked about this application on a value scale of maybe 10 being 100% white, and then a 9 being maybe 90% white on that one. This value change here is probably going to be no darker than than maybe a value 80% light up here on that, and then transitioning into where it is very light in there. And it doesn't, the cool thing about it, it doesn't necessarily have to be even, right? If you have clouds in the sky and that sort of a thing, it can be, let's say, darker here and pull down to this area like that, and maybe a little darker in this section here, but maybe lighter in this section over here. Let's put this in, see if I can get that a little bit darker. We talked about being darker in the corners. So I'm focusing on that, leaving that area just white. And using a horizontal marking system with slightly longer strokes. Making this a little darker here, maybe bringing it down. But definitely darker up top. Let's go over here to this side a little bit. I had a little bit of a flaw in the paper as well, where it was got a little bent and a little damage there. So trying to skippity around that a little bit. Okay, let's put my pencil kind of sideways there like that so I can get the tip to go off the page. And remember, we wanted this, the term you hear sometimes also in photography is a vignette, where it has darker around the edges. That's what that's called sometimes, when you darken in around it with those. Another photography term. The thing about it is, if you have areas that are truly white, just brilliantly white, sometimes that gets just a little bit distracting on that. So let's flip this around a little bit so we can kind of see what we're doing. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's working out pretty good for me here. Like I said, just a little darker around the corners and a little darker up here, and not too much, not too much. So we have a gradient effect, something like that, where it's subtly darker at the top and then it comes down here, and then all of a sudden your vehicle has a pretty clear context of where it is on that one. So that would be kind of the finished the finished drawing after dealing with the background. And really, the background didn't take that much time on that, and it does make it look much more finished almost. But that is it. That is the Corvette value application. How awesome.